Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the 17th edition of Texas Longhorns here live. I am your host, Matthew Miller. I appreciate you guys being here today, the 12th of August. Every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, you know where to find me right here on the Voice of College Football, specifically the Texas channel. I'm here every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be throwing another show in, talking and breaking down what Sark said, anything in practice reports, stuff like that comes out. We will be here probably Wednesday during the season. Haven't set that in stone yet. And then after the games, every Saturday, I will be here breaking down Texas Longhorns football. So please come over and join me here as well. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out what we're trying to build here, guys. We're going to be breaking down games crazy once we get into the season. Hopefully to have guests on each week of the team we play. We're definitely going to break down the Michigan game specifically. I know those guys do a fantastic job. We're trying to grow this channel like that channel because those guys do a fantastic job and they get plenty of interaction over there. TJ, John, and Ferris. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. We're going to be talking about the CJ BAXTER injury and what it means for Texas long-term in the season. Camp and scrimmage update. There was a scrimmage Saturday. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the coaches poll versus the Mark Rogers poll, the most important poll, and the Associated Press poll, which came out today. We're going to break that down, see the differences. Honestly, not that many differences between the three. And Mark came out with his first, so he got ahead of the curve there. And then we're going to talk about SEC linebacker rankings. I've ranked almost every room. After today, we're only going to talk about the secondary. That's all I'm going to have to rank. And then, guys, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be giving you my predictions on all of college football, all the SEC, how I think it's going to break down. I have some things in my head right now that I know I'm going to do. I have some things I'm debating what I'm going to do. And then other things I think are obvious of what's going to happen. So again, guys, a jam-packed show. Before we get started here, if you're going to use Amazon, go down in the description of each and every Mark Rogers video. Use that link. Does not change the buying experience at all. So please use that. It helps out Mark. Puts a little bit of money in his pocket. So please do that. Also, every Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Matt, Mark, Tim do a fantastic job of breaking down USC, so go over there and subscribe to that channel as well. I really appreciate you guys doing that. Like it says down below, like and subscribe to content, share it out. We're trying to grow the brand here. I want 50 to 60 people in here. But guess what? Guys, I will go for 3 hours if you get me 50 to 60 people to talk football with. I do not care. I love talking about college football. I'm very passionate about it, as you can tell. So please subscribe down below. It really helps out, guys. Let's jump into your content or comments. Jackson joining us as always. I really appreciate it, Jackson. Yes, use that link. Changes nothing. All it does is put a little bit of change in Mark's pocket. The top 25 that actually makes sense is right there on X. Go join us. We put out fantastic content each and every day on the Voice of College Football Twitter channel. Right there on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It's right there. Thank you, Jackson, for putting that in there. And there is that link for that USC show. I watch it, guys. They do a fantastic job over there. I watch most of our channels, if not all of them. Some of them, I will say, Oregon, a little bit too late for me some nights. I think they do. There's like 10:30, 11. I can't stay up that late usually, especially on a weekday. But if you can, and you should, go over there and hit their like button and subscribe as well. We're trying to grow this brand across all networks on the Voice of College Football. But unfortunately, guys, we're going to have to tone it down a little bit because it is a sad past week, basically 5 days ago, CJ BAXTER was injured and out for the year. It was a knee injury, PCL and LCL. Last year, he had 659 yards and 4.8 yards per carry as a freshman with 5 touchdowns. People forget, yes, Jonathan Brooks was the starter for the majority of the year, but coming out of camp, CJ BAXTER was the starter. As a true freshman out of high school, he became the starter at Texas. Now, did I personally agree with that from what I've seen from CJ BAXTER and Jonathan Brooks? Absolutely not. I don't know what was going on during camp. Jonathan Brooks, to me, was by far the best running back on the team. I think if Jonathan Brooks was healthy, he would have been the best running back in the country. Unfortunately, for the second year in a row, though, we do lose our starting running back. And, guys, it's going to be interesting. I think what I've seen is actually surprisingly positive stuff from the Texas Longhorn community. And I understand that there's nothing wrong with being positive. First, prayers and thoughts out to CJ BAXTER. Obviously, this is a terrible injury for him. Hopefully, he can recover going forward. The recovery for this is high, but it's not always great, guys. Like everything that I've read, studied, it's about 80%. That's what you're going to get is 80% of guys recover full health. That means there's 20% of guys that don't recover to their full health. So there's a decent percentage chance we've seen the best of CJ Baxter already. And I hope that isn't the case. I really don't, because I think he has a very high ceiling. But it's going to be interesting. And I'm going to bring this up. I do not want to brag about this, but I said when we were doing running back rankings in the SEC, out of these guys in this running back room, the 5 that I mentioned, Christian Clark, Jarrett Gibson, CJ Baxter, Trey Wisner, and Jaden Blue, if someone's going to transfer, I had a feeling it was going to be CJ Baxter, not because of talent-wise. I think he's probably the most talented or second most talented in that group, but because of injuries. Last year was a lot of nagging injuries, shoulder, ankle, sternum, stuff like that. And I said if that continues to happen, he would either lose his job as a starter or just lose it as a whole if it was something serious like this, because this is a very talented room. And I'm really afraid this may have been the last time we ever see CJ Baxter as the starter at the University of Texas last year. And I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong on this. I really do. I hope he recovers and has a fantastic career for Texas. And if it's not for Texas, I hope he just has a fantastic career in general. But there's a real chance that does happen. I really believe that, and it's really sad to say. But I wanted to talk about people being so positive about it in the room in general. So I broke down some numbers. I just went back the last 2 years. So 2023, guys, Jonathan Brooks led the team with 187 carries. In the room overall, there was 444 carries exactly between, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 running backs. I did not count wide receivers in this. Xavier Worthy got a couple carries. I also did not count Quinn Ewers. In 2022, guys, there were 258 carries by Bijan Robinson at first. Then 93, 30, 25, 15 were the next ones up at 421 carries. And 12, those are just 12 game sample size. I only did regular season, guys. So we're talking about between 420 and 450 carries basically between the 2 years. And the distribution seems to be 187 on the top end for Jonathan Brooks. Now, he only played 11 games. He probably would have reached 200 to 205 carries. Bijan Robinson had 258 carries. My guess is the starter at Texas this year probably would have gotten about 200 carries. I don't think Jaden Blue is going to reach that number, nor do I think he should. I don't think he is built for that, guys. We're talking a guy that's 6 foot, 205 pounds. He's not a big guy. And Texas loves to run inside zone. That is a staple of this offense. They like to run inside zone and then run RPOs off of that, run pass options. So do I think Jaden Blue can give you 4 to 6 of those a game? Yes. Do I think he can give you 10 to 15 of those like some other running backs could? No, I do not. And I don't think Trey Wisner, honestly, is going to end up being second in carries. You're going to have to find, in my opinion, 100 to 120 carries in the room. You're going to have to find those. I think Trey Wisner, like I said, if you're trying to get to 400, 440, let's say you had to get to 425. I think Jaden Blue is going to give you 200. So you need 225 more carries between Christian Clark, Jarrett Gibson, and Trey Wisner. How are you going to get those? I think Trey Wisner gets you 50 to 75. Say he gives you 75 on the high end. So you need about 125 to 150 more. I think one of the two, and Christian Clark or Jarrett Gibson's going to have to give that to you. I think Jarrett Gibson's going to be the guy. I think he's the most ready-made at the running back position, guys. The guy's 5'10", 205 pounds. He's built like a tank. And this guy's super talented. Coming out of high school, Jarrett Gibson was the 4th-rated high school running back coming out. And he's going to have to take the load here. He just is. I don't know if he's going to be ready for it. I don't know what situations he's going to be used in, but there's a couple things these guys cannot do when they get their opportunity. One, they cannot blow blocking assignments. We saw Quinn Ewers get hurt because Jatavian Sanders wasn't a great blocker. He tried, but he wasn't good, and he got Quinn hurt. The running back that fills in for Cedric Baxter cannot be back there pass protecting and get Quinn Ewers hurt, 1. 2, they cannot commit penalties when they're back there, tackling guys in the backfield when they're supposed to be blocking, obviously. Getting hit from the blind side, Quinn Ewers getting hit from the blind side and causing a fumble. They can't do stuff like that. They can't have false start penalties. Stuff like that cannot happen. Number 3, you cannot fumble. Basically, in my opinion, guys, whoever gets the 100 to 150 carries that we need out of the second running back position, because I don't think it's Trey Wisner. I like Trey Wisner, but I think he's 50 to 75 carries, maybe 100 carries, maybe. And I think that you're just don't blow it. That's basically what I'm saying. Do not blow it. That is what we need from whoever steps up between Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark. Like I said, in my opinion, it will be Jarrett Gibson. But it could be Christian Clark. Who knows? Christian Clark, up until, honestly, the scrimmage, was said to be having a better camp. But I think just watching the high school tape and watching the recruiting rankings, I do think Jarrett Gibson is a better football player and more ready-made. I mean, he was playing at IMG Academy. IMG Academy is basically like a junior college or a low-level college football team. They have so many Division I players, and they have such a, honestly, college-ready scheme. I think he's ready to translate into college football. Some other possible solutions that I've heard mentioned, and I think, and I was ahead of the curve. Obviously, I didn't have time to make a video like the other big sites did, but a tight end in the backfield split set with another running back in passing situations, you could do that. I think Juan Davis would be the most likely there. Gunnar Helm, I don't see lining up in the backfield. I definitely don't see Amari Niblack lining up in the backfield along with the running back. But could I see Juan Davis in the backfield? Certainly. Yes, I could. Could I see Darian Gillette, who was also in the scrimmage, who's a linebacker lineup back there just to block once in a while? Yes, I could. I think Steve Sarkisian is going to have to get creative with this. And guess what? He's a creative offensive mind. So it should be pretty easy for him. I also think, honestly, guys, the strength of this team was always the offensive line, the quarterback, and the wide receivers. If this team was going to go and meet its upper echelon ceiling, it was going to be because of Quinn Ewers' right shoulder and his right arm. It was. That's how this team was going to win a national championship or get there at least. It wasn't going to be because of C.J. Baxter and Jaden Blue. It wasn't. Are they good backs? Of course they are. And I'm not saying they couldn't have contributed to a national championship season or C.J. Baxter couldn't have contributed to a national championship season. But if this team was going to reach its upper echelon ceiling, it was going to be on Quinn Ewers' shoulder. And this just puts that onus more on Quinn Ewers now. To me, the mold has always been 2019 Bama, 2019 LSU and 2020 Bama. We've broken down how those teams were offensively compared to their defense. Their defenses were between, I believe, 25th and 35th in the country. Their offenses were best in the country. That's what this is going to have to be for Texas if they want to win the national championship. So it's going to be very interesting. Here's another thing. Jaden Blue's career high in touches is 13 in the game, and he only had what? 138 last year. So you're going to ask the guy to carry the ball probably I guarantee there's 5 or 6 games he's getting 13 or more touches. Probably more than that. Every game he plays, he may get 13 or more touches. And you're probably asking him to touch the ball 225, 230 times. He's going to have 40 to 50 catches on top of 180 plus rush attempts. So you got to keep him healthy. And that's the thing too, guys. We're not even out of camp yet. We already have an injury there. Someone's going to miss a game or two. That's what's going to happen. We saw Cedric Baxter as the backup last year missed a game or two. Jane Blue as the starter at some point, being the small frame that he is, probably will get hurt a little bit, nicked up, and miss a game or two. Now, that it does matter when he misses these games as well, because let's be honest here. If he's missing UL Monroe or Mississippi State, we don't need him for those games. We can roll out Christian Clark, Jarrett Gibson, Trey Wisner and be fine. But if you're missing Georgia, if you're missing Florida, even Kentucky, that's going to be an issue. But overall, someone's going to have to pick up the 100 and 150 carries that we missed with C.J. Baxter out, because that's what it's going to take. Because obviously Jaden Blue will take up a little more of the slack than he was already going to. It'd be shocking now if he's under 170 carries for the year, unless he gets hurt, which hopefully that doesn't happen, because then we will have serious issues there. So that is that for that topic, guys. Again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. This is the 17th edition of Texas Longhorns here live. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Thank you. 7 p.m. Eastern time every Monday. I'm here breaking down the Texas Longhorns. Now, next up, guys, we had a scrimmage Saturday. We also have some fall camp news. We're going to get into that right now. Number one thing I love hearing out of the scrimmage Saturday, Anthony Hill, MVP of the scrimmage. Everywhere you looked, anyone that wanted to talk about the scrimmage, this was the guy they mentioned. He would have had 2 would-be sacks on Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning, but obviously not allowed to touch the quarterback. He beat Brandon Baker and Kelvin Banks. I mean, no offense to Brandon Baker. He's going to get beat every time with Anthony Hill lining up there. Guys, Anthony Hill has the highest upside of any player on this team. Let me repeat that for anyone that isn't listening. Anthony Hill has the highest upside of anyone on this team. And you're thinking, Matthew, they have Arch Manning. They have Quinn Ewers. They have Isaiah Bond. They have Trey Moore. They have Kelvin Banks. Sorry, I should have mentioned him up way higher than I did. Yes, Anthony Hill to me, and I know this comparison's already been made, Micah Parsons. That's his comp, Micah Parsons. The guy's, I think, going to be a fantastic inside linebacker. That's what Micah Parsons was originally drafted by the Cowboys to do. And then we saw him last year, second on the team in sacks, guys. Second on the team in sacks with 5.5. He only played 40 to 50% of snaps. He was second on the team in sacks and second on the team in tackles, playing 40 to 50% of the snaps. That's how talented this guy is. If this guy is who I think he is and how he is progressing, I was kind of questioning the SEC. I think he was first or second team mentioned preseason. He will be a first team or second team all preseason player if he continues what I think he's continuing in this camp to the season. That's how talented this guy is. This guy is a special football player. I'm excited to watch him this year. I think he's going to be the middle linebacker. The only question now is he going to have the communication in his helmet? That's the only question. Question at first was middle linebacker. That has quickly been answered. He's killing it. Now it's just, is he going to be in control of this defense in his second year? This guy can be the most talented linebacker in the history of Texas football. For any of you guys that don't know, just go and Google the lineage of Texas football. The last really great one we had was Derek Johnson. I think he can mimic that at Texas. I really do. Ewers and Arch both had great days. They both did have an interception. To me, that's not that big of a deal. Offensive timing is going to be hard to get down early in camp. And in the season, you'll see teams be better on defense than they were on offense. So it doesn't shock me. Arch has a strong connection with Ryan Wingo, and Quinn Ewers has a strong connection with Matthew Golden. That makes sense because Arch Manning's running the second team. Ryan Wingo has been running mostly second team at wide receiver. He has obviously sprinkled in first team as well. And then Matthew Golden. I tried to scream from the tallest mountaintop for both Silas Bolden and Matthew Golden because Isaiah Bond is getting all the love, and he's a good player. Silas Bolden, I heard I heard bigger sources who I question sometimes basically be like, we think he's going to be special teams only, here and there playing, not that much. Guys, throw on the tape of Silas Bolden. It is a joke if you think that. It is a complete joke. I also heard the same site say, you know what? I think Matthew Golden's going to be a backup. I think DeAndre Moore is going to play in the slot. Throw on the tape of Matthew Golden at Houston. A man was not coming here to be a backup. Matthew Golden is going to have the biggest jump out of anyone stats-wise because of who he has around him at Texas. The guy had Donovan Smith throwing the football at Houston on Dana Holgerson's last leg of coaching. Yes, he's going to put up way better stats at Texas with the offensive scheme, the offensive line, the connection with Quinn Ewers. Mark my words, it would shock me if Matthew Golden has anything less than 600 yards receiving. It would shock me. I would actually be more shocked if he had less than 600 yards than if he had 1,000. Same with Silas Bolden. Silas Bolden's going to have 500-plus yards receiving, guys. And he's going to have a lot of touchdowns in the special teams game-wise as well. I think he's going to have 3 to 5 touchdowns in the punt and kick return game. I shouldn't say 3 to 5. I think we'll have 2 to 3 in the punt and kick return game. I almost got ahead of myself. 5's a lot. I think we'll have 2 to 3. Running backs Christian Clark and Jared Gibson both fumbled. That worries me. Like we said about the CJ Baxter thing, you can't have the catastrophic stuff happen. That is catastrophic. You cannot fumble. One of them was a fantastic play. It actually got tweeted out on Twitter if you guys want to check it out. Jahdae Barron came in and made a great play on the ball with Christian Clark going into the end zone, helmet on the ball. That's going to happen. That's fine. I'm talking about the loose carrying out here where it gets swiped out. Cannot happen. Jaden Blue also has issues with that. So keep an eye out on that. Like I said, also, Darian Gillette got a couple inside zone carries. Steve Sarkisian did talk today. I did not have a chance to watch that press conference because it has not been put up on YouTube yet. I don't know if he talked about if Darian Gillette switch to running back is permanent or not. I'm sure he was asked that question. It'll be interesting. I'll go back and watch that. Like I said, it hasn't been put out yet. For whatever reason, the Texas Longhorns channel just doesn't put out Steve Sarkisian's press conferences. I have to get them from another source now because the Texas Longhorns channel is connected with Longhorn Network, and obviously that's down now. So that doesn't make any sense to me. But the main 6 wide receivers are still running first team. Bolden, Golden, Bond, Wingo, Moore, and then Cook also, but he's actually teetering off. He's not running as much first team as he was originally. I might nail my predictions for reps wide receiver when it comes to wide receivers. I said DeAndre Moore would be 6th. I said Jonte Cook would be 5th. I said Ryan Wingo would be, or no, I said Silas Bolden would be 4th. I said Ryan Wingo would be 3rd. I said Matthew Golden would be 2nd and Isaiah Bond 1st. I might nail that rep wise. So we'll see. And Silas Bolden had the catch of the day. He dove out for a ball and made the catch. Not surprising there. Juan Davis actually got more first-team reps than Amari Niblack as well. So Juan Davis is 100% playing this year. I'm really interested to see how they divvy up those reps between Amari Niblack and Juan Davis. Obviously, Gunnar Helm's going to get the majority of reps at tight ends. You're going to see tight ends, 2 tight end sets a lot. Obviously, Sark loves 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back. So you're going to see that. It's going to be interesting. Is Gunnar Helm and Juan Davis going to be a more used combination than Amari Niblack and Gunnar Helm? It's going to be very interesting. But Amari Niblack did line up at wide receiver, outside wide receiver a lot, so that's good as well. Like I said, Steve Sarkisian is going to use this offense just how I think they're going to use the defense. Is versatility is going to be the big word. He made that the biggest word this offseason. You're going to see guys play out of position, but they're going to be used to it because they're getting runs in camp like this. Like I said, all 6 of these wide receivers have played all completely different positions, other than, I believe, Ryan Wingo. He's only played the X or the Z. He has not played the Y, the slot at all. Every other guy has played all 3 positions. So they're going to line them up everywhere. They're going to run out some crazy It would not shock me at some point if you see 3 tight end sets, but spread out wide with Gunnar Helm, Juan Davis, and Amari Niblack with like a wide receiver and a running back out there. There's going to be some crazy stuff Sark dials up. And I think it's going to be on a week-to-week basis, attacking the defense and in their weaknesses. So I'm going to love that. Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton lined up with the first teams at defensive tackle. I think you can lock that in. That's going to be your first team defensive tackle group. Tia Sevilla also had a really good day, so I think he's probably running 3rd right now. Jermaine Lollet is on a pitch count because of all the injuries he sustained at Arizona State and Louisville. So I think he's a guy that, honestly, he's going to be rotational. I think he's only going to really play, 20% of the snaps, meaningful snaps. This is the hard thing to say. There are going to be snaps where he's not going to play in ULN because they're not going to need him. But meaningful snaps, I still only think he's going to play about 20% of them. And then they have a NASCAR package, guys. Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Trey Moore, and Ethan Burke out there all rushing the passer. Colin Simmons is actually the Sam linebacker, which is the strong side linebacker where most of your personnel line up on one side. That's where he would line up. I believe Tom Herman had a package like this when they had a bunch of defensive backs out there. They ran them like 7 or 8 defensive backs out there. So it's kind of like the inverse of that, I guess. But it's smart. That is your strength, is the edges. Throw as many of them out there as you can. And you're going to see that with Johnny Nansen also. Johnny Nansen would use a game plan one week, rip it up, and use a completely different one next week to attack the offense and their strengths and what they're trying to do, which is 100% how you play. I don't know why every defensive coordinator doesn't do that, but they don't. Most are usually stuck in their scheme. We're going to do it this way, and if they're going to beat us, this is how they're going to beat us. Johnny Nansen is, this is their strength. Let's take it away. Let's make them use their weaknesses. We'll see how it works in year 1 with Johnny Nansen and PK, but I like the strategy nonetheless. The first team safeties, guys, were Michael Taff and Andrew Makuba. You also had Derek Williams and Jelani McDonald get first team reps. You're going to see all 4 of those guys, I think, play quite a bit. Again, based on personnel, based on situation, just like this. Jalen Gilbo was the main nickelback. Jahdae Barron also played there as well. Like I said, he would 4 months ago. Jahdae Barron wasn't going to come back to school just to play nickelback again. He's going to play cornerback. He's going to play safety. He's going to play nickelback as well. But anyone dumb enough to think, he's just going to come back and play nickelback? No, because if that was the case, he would have went to the NFL. So it doesn't make any sense for him just to come back and play nickelback. I actually think he's a safety on the next level, Jahdae Barron, that is. So we'll see. They also played both of them at the nickelback position in the red zone at the same time. You saw this versus Kansas State a little bit. And again, based off personnel and how they're running the offense. I love it, guys. The more things you practice and camp, you can execute in the game. You can use all this versatility and all this stuff in games because you've practiced it. If these guys have never practiced this position, you can't just throw them out there in the game and expect it to work. And at least you may never use it in the game, but at least you've practiced it so you know you can do it and execute it in the game. They've also been rotating offensive linemen. I think that's going to be permanent. They've rotated in Cole Hudson and Neto at the guard positions for Hayden Connor and DJ Campbell. I think based on situations, you're going to rotate them in. Now, do I think Sark's not dumb enough to where, oh, it's a run, this guy's a better run blocker, we're going to throw him in? If they do that, there are going to be issues down the road. But I like this. I really do. I think it's good. I think it keeps guys healthy. And you have 7 guys that are good enough to play. So why not play them? So we've worked hard enough to recruit them, get them on campus, develop them. Why not play them? And it's come afar. It's far and away better than it was when Sark got here, when we had 4 to 5 guys that we could trust. We have 7 to 8 now, 7 for sure. So they've done a fantastic job. And that is the camp and scrimmage update. Please, again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. 7 p.m. Eastern time every Monday here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You can follow me over there on X as well. And guys, if you're going to buy anything, whether it's water, whether it's these ring lights I have in front of me, whether it's the camera I have in front of me, go in the description, use the Amazon link, send Mark a little bit of money. Doesn't cost you anything. All it's doing is taking a little bit of money out of Amazon's pocket and sending it to Mark. So please do that. Also, go over and subscribe to the USC show every night, or Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time. They also have a fantastic call-in show Friday if you're interested in that. So please go over there, subscribe as well. With Tim, Matt, and Mark, thank you guys for that. So that was the CJ Baxter injury. That was the camp and scrimmage update. Let's get in your comments and questions, and then we'll get back to it. Or become a YouTube member of the Voice of College Football. Yes, you can do that as well. Unlocks a bunch of different stuff with you guys. I believe there's a group chat you can join as well, so that's pretty cool. It's a tough loss, but we were stacked in the running back room. Hook 'em. Yes, that is true. But again, they're not as high on Christian Clark and Jarrett Gibson as they were Cedric Baxter, so it's hard for me to say, like, it's just plug and play, honestly. Like, I trust Jaden Blue, but after that, I trust Trey Weissman to an extent. But that guy's really small. He hasn't really gotten much playing time. I think he only had 12 carries last year, so what do we really expect out of him? Like I said, I think the max you can push this guy right now is 100 carries. If he's getting anything more than that, I think you're in trouble. That's why I think he ends up third in carries on the team. I think it's going to be Christian Clark or Jarrett Gibson second in carries. Because Trey Weissman was only going to get 40 to 50 carries and probably 15 to 25 receptions was my guess, if I had to guess on that. But let's get into this, guys. We've ranked almost every room in the SEC after this one, only the secondary. And then we're going to be actually making predictions how I think these teams are going to finish. I'm going to have a list of basically how I broke these teams down, added up points-wise, and that's how I'm going to rank them. And then I'm going to have my just ranking how I think they're going to finish overall and see how they compare. That's how we did with the Big 12 last year. I really like that. And honestly, without even looking, they were pretty similar. So let's see if they're similar in the SEC. First up, guys, let me take a drink, and then we'll get to number 1, which is the Georgia Bulldogs. Anyone shocked by this? Because I am not. I will say, this was closer than I thought it was going to be. You have Small Munden. By the way, cool name. I think his nickname's Smile, or am I making that up? But his name's Small Munden, coming back for his senior year. He had 6 to 8 tackles and 3 sacks last year. I think he has unfinished business. That's why I think he's back, because this guy was good enough to go to the NFL last year. He really was. I don't think he was a first-round pick, but he probably is a late second, early third-round pick, in my opinion, just watching him. You also have Jerron Walker, led team in sacks. And then you have sophomore C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, Troy Bowles, and all these guys are 4- or 5-star recruits. It's crazy how deep Georgia is. Like, if Small Munden and Jelon Walker got hurt, they could still be an average SEC room linebacker-wise, which is crazy. C.J. Allen actually came on last year, and it's a reason for one of the guys that we'll talk about in the next room for transferring. But he had 41 tackles and just 4 starts last year. He played in all 14 games, but he had 41 tackles in those 14 games and 4 starts. And I think this guy could have an all SEC type year, and that is C.J. Allen. And that rounds out the first room in the SEC. Number 2, and this is the guy that transferred because of that. Pop Dumas Johnson is a senior as well. He has 126 tackles, 17 tackles for loss in his career. Hell of a player. Guys, if this guy was still on Georgia, imagine Small Munden, C.J. Allen, and Pop Dumas Johnson rotating on the inside. That is insane to have that much talent. And guess what? Georgia still has crazy amounts of talent without him. But This really helps out Kentucky's room. They also have De'Aaron Jackson, 3-year starter, 178 tackles in 3 years, 12 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups, and 4 interceptions for him. And then they have Alex Afari. He's mostly playing Sam linebacker, like we said. He's going to play on the side with the most personnel on it. And it's because he's a big dude. He's 6'4", big thumper at linebacker. I think he's in for a really good year. I mean, those top 2 alone are fantastic players who are going to play in the NFL. Pop Dumas Johnson is probably going to play in the NFL for a very long time. Next up, this will make the rival happy, guys. I'm not trying to make them happy. They have a good linebacker room. They really do. Oklahoma, Danny Stutzman, 100 tackles for him the past 2 years. He was also second in sacks. Now, he only had 4 sacks. I think Ethan Downs was first with 5.5, so not that impressive. And I tried to argue with an Oklahoma fan about the defensive line. It's not that good, not as good as you think it is. I should say this. It's not that good on the edges. It's very good in the middle. But, again, go and look up at the defensive line room rankings that I put out already on the SEC channel and on here. Kip Lewis came in, and he's still there. Second last season in tackles with 66. And they have the 4th leading tackler back as well, and Jared Kanik with 62 total tackles, and he was 3rd in sacks. They also bring back Kobe McKenzie, young guy. Only played a little bit last year. I think he only had 12 tackles, so really not that great from him. But the top, your top 4 tacklers, or 3 out of 4, were your linebackers, and Kip Lewis, Jared Kanik, and Danny Stutzman, and you bring them all back. That is why Oklahoma is ranked number 3 for the linebacker rooms. Very good room for them. Number 4, and I think after this room, it kind of takes a step back, honestly, is Alabama. Deontay Lawson, Jahad Campbell, both respectively 2nd in tackles and 3rd in tackles. Deontay Lawson was 67. Jahad Campbell was 66. Deontay Lawson also had 3 sacks. That was only in 11 games. He missed a couple games last year. Jahad Campbell had 1 interception and 2 fumble recoveries as well. Those 2 guys, you could argue they might be the best duo at the interior linebacker position. The outside is questionable with Justin Jefferson and Jeremiah Alexander, but they have a couple of good freshmen. They can rotate there as well, so that's going to be interesting, guys. But I have them at number 4. And number 5, going to be shocked by this. You really are. Vanderbilt at number 5. And I was surprised by this as well, but they're pretty good. Langston Patterson, 74 tackles, 8 tackles for loss. Both first on the team last year, and he's back. And this is a guy right here. Listen, you don't have to like Vandy. You don't even have to respect Vandy. This guy's a player. This is a guy that a lot of people were hoping would jump in the portal so they could poach him. Apparently, he was made a lot of offers from certain teams. C.J. Taylor, linebacker safety hybrid. We call that the joker position in some defenses. 55 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, an all-SEC type player. Expect a big season from him. He's only I think he's only a sophomore this season, either only a sophomore or junior. This guy's a hell of a player. He's going to play in the NFL. I expect him to have a big year in this Vandy defense, and I think I have him rated properly. They also bring back talented sophomore and Brian Longwell, freshman. He was 9th on the team in tackles last year as a freshman. He's a sophomore this year. And they bring in Prince Coley, former 4-star from Notre Dame, for the 5th-ranked linebacker room in the SEC, the Vanderbilt Commodores. Number 6 is where I bring in my Longhorns. Not the deepest room, but again, we just talked about this man. Anthony Hill, 2nd in tackles with 67, 2nd in sacks with 5, 4th in tackles for loss, all in under 50% of snaps played. There's a good chance this might be the best linebacker in this whole. Out of all the guys I've listed, this might be the best linebacker. Might be at the end of the year. David Bend also had a really nice year last year. Was 4th on the team in tackles with 50, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. And then you have Mo Blackwell, who's kind of like your chess piece back there. He's going to cover your tight ends, your running backs out of the backfield. A slimmer guy who keeps getting nicked up. That does worry me. But you also have Leona Lefau, who was a high 4-star recruit last year. Sat out most of his freshman year, played a little bit of special teams. He's going to play special teams this year. I think he will be rotated in at the linebacker room as well. But that brings in Texas at number 6. I think you could debate 6 and 7, honestly. And I have 7 LSU. If they can actually put Harold Perkins in the proper spot, honestly, I think they should play him a lot like Anthony Hill. You'll play a little bit on the edge. You'll play a little bit at middle linebacker. That's why I think Harold Perkins should be utilized. He was 4th in tackles last year, 1st in tackles for loss, and 1st in sacks. Guy is a hell of a football player. This is probably his last year in college football. They also bring back Greg Penn III. He was 2nd in tackles with 89 and 4 sacks, which was 3rd on the team. And then they also bring back the brothers West and Whit Weeks. Whit is actually the younger one, and he's the better one, honestly. So those are the 4 guys that you'll keep an eye out on in the LSU room. Next up, we have A&M, and they lost Edrin Cooper at the linebacker position, but they do bring back Torian York, who was 2nd in tackles, 74 tackles for him, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. They bring in Damian Sanford in his sophomore year. He was a freshman last year, only had 4 tackles last year, so he's going to have to take a big jump for this room. And they bring in Scooby Williams from Florida. He has 70 tackles in 3 seasons there, so an okay player, not a great player. And then Solomon DeShields is a Pitt transfer, 58 tackles and 8 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks last year at Pitt. So pretty good player, but again, he's coming from a 3-9 Pitt team. I think they were pretty good on defense. They weren't great, so we'll see how that works out for them there. Number 9, we have South Carolina, guys, and they lose quite a bit. They bring in Pitt transfer Bangley Kamara, 120 career tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. They also bring it back Debo Williams, 113 tackles last year, so he had a fantastic year. I think he'll have another good year. They bring in Demetrius Knight from Charlotte, 147 tackles in 5 years, so nothing to write home about, honestly. And then they bring in Bam Morton Scott, or they bring him back, 38 tackles last year for him. So honestly, other than Debo Williams and Bangley Kamara from Pitt, not a great room. I think it's okay. That's why I have him ranked number 9. Number 10, I have the Auburn Tigers, if it'll pull up here. Eugene Asante comes in, or his first season with Auburn was last year, 86 tackles, 5 sacks. That wasn't him. Eugene Asante was with Auburn last year, 86 tackles and 5 sacks. They bring in Austin Keys, whose first season was with Auburn last year, originally from Ole Miss, 30 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. And then they bring in first-year player from Duke, now at Auburn, Dorian Masusi, 44 games, 143 tackles, 2 years started. So a decent player there on what was a really good Duke defense. Now, did that have to do with more with Mike Elko, or is he actually a good player? We'll have to see with Auburn. Number 11, I bring in Ole Miss. They would be higher, but they have one great player, and they have really nothing after him. They bring in transfer Chris Paul Jr. from Arkansas. He is a really, really good player. Led Arkansas in tackles last year. They also have Kari Coleman and Centauri Perkins and TJ Bradley there, but not much to write home about between those 3. It's mostly Chris Paul there, and that's why I have them ranked 11. If those guys were really good players, they would honestly be a lot higher. Hell, if one of them was a really good player, I probably would have him ranked somewhere where Texas is at. But you're relying on Chris Paul. If he gets hurt, it could get dicey there for Ole Miss. Number 12, we have Florida. You could probably debate this being a little bit higher, but they're just really young. They're very talented, though. Other than this guy does have talent, and he has experience. Shamar James, 8 sacks last year, and their defense fell off a cliff when this guy got hurt. In 8 games, 54 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. They also bring in South Carolina transfer Grayson Howard. He only had 19 tackles last year, though. And then look out for freshmen Miles Graham and Aaron Childs. Again, talented but inexperienced, so we'll see how that pans out for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. Number 13, Tennessee. Big question marks here. 7th-year player Keenan Pillai from BYU. He missed all of last year with an injury, and then you're counting on Arian Carter, who's a talented pass rusher and a freshman, and then, or I don't know if he's freshman, sorry. Arian Carter, talented pass rusher, and then Jeremiah Tillander, also at the linebacker's position. So it's going to be very questionable here. I mean, your best player is a 7th-year guy who has injury issues. So that is why I have Tennessee 13. Number 14, Missouri. They lose both their linebackers starters last year, but they do have Chuck Hicks and Tristan Newton, who played in the bowl game versus Ohio State and played pretty well. They have 11 years of college experience combined between the two, which is hilarious. And then, but they've never been regular season starters, so that's the question mark here. And then they have Alabama transfer Khalil Jacobs, and Miami transfer Corey Flagg. Just a whole lot of question marks here for number 14. Missouri, if those two guys do play as well as they did play in the Ohio State game, though, for the whole season, this can jump up probably to number 9 or 10. Mississippi State, all SEC linebackers Nathaniel Watson and Jet Johnson are gone. Bye-bye, see ya. This team is not good at most positions, and they aren't good here. John Lewis and J.P. Purvis have to step up. Those are the two main guys there. And then Tide Cooper at outside linebacker, no starting experience for him, but he's a big guy, 6'4". Let's see if he can get to the pass, or if he can be a good pass rusher. And then, guys, number 16 is Archie. They lost 30 players to the transfer portal, and they lost the 4 main linebackers they were going to use, including Chris Paul, who went to Ole Miss. Brad Spence was a freshman last year. He's played in 11 games. He is penciled in as a starter there. We'll see how he does. They also bring in transfers Larry Worth from Jackson State and Steven Dix Jr. from Marshall, and former 5-star Xavier Sori from Georgia. We'll see how those guys play. They're kind of unproven. And if they are proven, they're coming from lower-level schools. My God, the bottom half of this is really questionable at best. It's going to be very iffy for Arkansas, Mississippi State, and even Missouri and Tennessee. Honestly, I'm only confident. I think it falls off after 12 from Florida, because at least you have one guy there I'm confident in. 13 through 16, I have no players in. I'm like one player in I'm confident in. Someone's going to have to step up tremendously for those rooms. And that is my linebacker rankings for the SEC. Next week, we will do secondary, and then it's prediction time, fellas. I cannot wait. But again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I'm here talking Texas Longhorns football. I will be here after every game. So please subscribe down below. We're going to have great content in season. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. That was the SEC linebacker rankings. Now, coaches poll versus Mark Rogers poll versus the AP poll. I have the coaches poll and Mark Rogers poll written down here. We are going to pull up the AP poll, and we are going to compare and contrast here with it. Let me pull that up for you real quick. If it'll let me share. And it will. Here we go, guys. Okay, so let me make sure that you guys can see what I see. You can. Okay, so we're actually going to start at the bottom here, because I think it's more interesting than the top, because I think the top is pretty chalky, honestly. Honestly, this whole thing is pretty chalky. So, Mark Rogers' poll has Texas A&M at 25. The coaches' poll has Iowa at 25. The AP poll is right there with Iowa at 25. They actually have A&M at 20. So Mark's a little bit lower on Texas A&M than the AP and coaches' poll. Let's run down this real quick. North Carolina State at 24. Mark has USC. Coach poll has Kansas at 24. So far, guys, I mean, honestly, there's really not that big of a difference here. Other than this, now that I just noticed this, the coaches poll and the AP poll do not have Iowa State ranked. Mark does at 22. Mark also has Auburn ranked. He also has Wisconsin ranked. Honestly, guys, that's really the only big differences. I actually completely agree with Mark. I think Iowa State should be ranked. Man, who would I take out, though? And that is a question here, guys. Who would I take out of the AP and coaches poll? Because they don't have North Carolina, or they do have North Carolina State ranked in the coaches poll. But I wouldn't take North Carolina State ranked out. I wouldn't. Man, I would either have to take out Arizona or USC. And I don't like taking out either of those teams, honestly. Let's see. Did AP poll, Iowa State received some votes, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So they have 30. That's probably the biggest discrepancy. Mark has them ranked 22nd. The coaches poll doesn't have them ranked, and neither does the AP poll. Honestly, guys, I think I like Mark's poll better than the AP poll. I mean, I'm not even being biased on that. Like, I completely agree. I think Iowa State should be ranked. They don't have Louisville ranked as well. But who am I taking out? Oh my gosh. I guess I would take out USC, put in Iowa State, and I think I would take out Arizona and put it in Louisville. And I don't like doing any of those, honestly. I think USC deserves to be ranked. I think USC is going to end up being ranked. I think they're probably an 8-4 team, which puts you in the top 25 if you're an 8-4 team in the Big Ten. But overall, guys, the top, let's go up to the top now. The top is basically all chalk. Mark has Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Bama, Texas. Both polls have all those teams in the top 5, just different orders. The only difference is Mark has Texas below Bama. Let's see, 6 through 10. Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State. Mark has Ole Miss 6, there. Notre Dame 7. Michigan, he does have 8. LSU 9. And Tennessee 10. So a little difference with Florida State and LSU, and then Tennessee, Penn State as well. He has Penn State at 11. Wow. I actually disagree with Mark on this. I would put LSU lower. There's no way in hell I'm ranking LSU inside the top 10. They've lost way too much. They've lost their leading passer and leading rusher, guys. That rarely happens. I'm trying to think. I bet Lamar Jackson is the only name I can think of, and he may not have led that team in rushing. So I totally disagree with that. That's really the only team I think Mark has too high here. I think he actually has Penn State too low. I actually agree with the AP and coaches poll on this. The coach poll has Penn State at 9. The AP poll has Penn State at 8. I actually agree with that. I think Michigan is properly rated as well. If you wanted to flip Penn State, Michigan, that'd be fine as well. I think Florida State is also slightly overrated. But overall, I think all these teams other than 3 or 4 are basically the same between the Mark Rogers poll, the coaches poll, and the AP poll. Like I said, Louisville, Iowa State, and Auburn and Wisconsin are really the 4 main ones Mark has in that the AP and coaches poll don't. But other than that, all those teams receive votes in here. So they're all basically on the same page. Mark is a little bit higher in LSU than both of them, and I actually disagree with them on that. But I do agree with his hype in Tennessee. I do think the coaches poll, which has Tennessee ranked 15th, and the AP poll, which has Tennessee ranked 15th, I think they should be higher. They should personally flip, in my opinion, Tennessee and LSU. I think Tennessee ends up being better than LSU. I don't know if you're I guess the poll should be what you think going into the season. And even at the end of the year, I think Tennessee is going to be better. And going into the year, I think Tennessee is a better team than LSU. I do not understand the LSU hype. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but it is what it is. I'm going to stop sharing for now. Honestly, not as many differences as I thought there was going to be, guys. But overall, I guess give me who you think is the most overrated, most underrated in the poll. I think LSU in Mark's poll is the most overrated. I think in the coaches poll, the most overrated team is Notre Dame and AP poll at 7. I don't think they deserve to be that high, but in Mark's poll, I think it's LSU. Coaches AP, I think it's Notre Dame. I think the most underrated team in Mark's, man, Mark does a pretty good job. So I don't know underrated. I think Miami might be underrated at 17. I'd probably push them up. And I think underrated in the coaches and AP poll is underrated because he's higher on them than they are than the coaches and AP. Coaches have Miami at 19. AP has them at 20. So I think they should be a little bit higher. I think they're a top 15 team going in. I think they're going to end up being like a top 10 team coming out. So that is the comparing and contrasting Mark's poll versus the AP and coaches poll. I really appreciate it again, guys, for you being here. Please, again, hit that like button and subscribe down below. Go over and follow my Twitter as well. This has been the 17th edition of Texas Longhorns Here Live. I'm here 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday night. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you guys for being here. Hook 'em.